Hey, David Brewster here with a new episode of 3 for All. This is 3 Andrew Latimer Licks from 2013, and we're going to be talking about the band Camel again. And last year I did put together a Camel Chordplay episode, and this time we're going to take a look at some of Andrew's licks. Definitely a very expressive and emotive guitarist, great player, and completely overlooked by most people. They don't really know Camel's music or Andrew's playing, but they should because it's very inspiring and musical. And definitely when Andrew takes a solo, in certain songs, he just starts going off in this like really melodic and expressive territory. It almost sounds like something a vocalist would sing, or maybe a violinist or a horn player, but it's him on guitar, which is really inspiring. Very interesting band, and I've been posting about this on Facebook, but the last few years I've just hopelessly been obsessed with 70s prog rock. Camel, Caravan, Gentle Giant, Goblin. I just can't get enough of this stuff, and definitely Camel rocks. The idea behind this lesson's been on my back burner for a while. I've been wanting to feature, Andrew Latimer for a while, and I finally, kind of got around to making this episode. And originally I was looking at old footage, like from the 70s, but then I did stumble on this more recent footage from 2013, and he's playing the song For Today, which is from the 2002 album A Nod and a Wink. And I honestly wasn't familiar with that song, and I'd never seen this clip before. And he just kind of steps up to the plate and just takes the solo. It definitely reminds me of Pink Floyd. It's very expressive and dreamy and kind of slow. And he's playing, very melodically and phrasing. And the way he kind of slides notes off and kind of, creates these melodies and phrases is really cool. It just grabbed me. I think this is it. Even though I was really tempted to hit 70s Camel, this footage was very inspiring. And I wanted to hit this, mainly because we've talked about playing with feel and playing with emotion. And definitely it's a great lesson in kind of, learning how to harness, some of this expression and feel. So anyway, here we go. So before we jump in the licks, it would be a great idea to actually investigate the chord progression we're going to be playing over, or that Andrew was playing over during this footage. And for today, it basically starts with B minor, and it's just really slow. And it hangs on that B minor for a long time. And then eventually G major, and then it kind of moves to D major, eventually E minor, and then it ends up on F sharp 7. So we kind of have this nice like little harmonic minor twist, in the chord progression there at the end with that major 5 chord, F sharp 7. So the chord progression once again, B minor, lots and lots of B minor, and then G to D major. On that D a minute, and then the E minor, and like I said, F sharp 7 there at the end. But that'll give you some idea of what we're playing over, and definitely the way he's targeting notes, in these melodies and phrases, he's kind of hitting specific notes over those chords. So keep that in mind the entire time during this lesson. All right, the first phrase is played over B minor, and he's doing something like this. One more time. So that's all over B minor right there. Starts on A. So really simple phrases here, but add a lot of feel and expression, kind of dig into those notes. And there's that A, that G to pull off, and that F sharp right there. And then you hear that pull off, from that E to D too. And then kind of a lazy, like that. And then he's holding, that final C sharp, that's the 9th, over that B minor chord. So he holds that note with some vibrato, and then he just slides it off, at the end right there, like this. So no shredding here, obviously, but it's just very melodic, very expressive. You know, it's a musical statement, and I love musical statements. Yeah, shredding's impressive, but what can you do? Like, move me, you know, play a melody, play music, and, you know, put some emotion and energy in it like that. All right, the next phrase takes place over that G major chord, and the very last note is when it changes to D major. So you're basically playing over G, and then the last note's over D, like this. And that A, that last note right there is over D. But you're doing... So one more time. And the tricky bit here is holding on to that bend. And definitely Andrew's milking a lot of these bends. And he's kind of releasing notes or bending up to notes with bending. You're going to see more of that as we continue here. But right there he's doing... Right? So you pick the first note, that F sharp, grab that A, bend it to B. Then once you get up to that B note, you kind of sustain it with some vibrato, and then you release it without picking again, which, like I said, you kind of hold on and milk some of these bends. And then, like that. And once again, very simple phrases, but it's the way it's set up and the way it kind of targets and pinpoints the chords, you know, he's playing over. And then that last phrase, you know, that last A is targeted right over that D chord when it changes. You know, which is really interesting and cool. So the next phrase in the solo is played over the E minor, and then eventually it ends up on that F sharp 7. And he's targeting, you know, E minor for the first part, and then the last part of this phrase is over that F sharp 7 like this. So really basic phrases. One more time. First part's all over E minor, you're targeting that G note. And then you end up on, you know, really simple phrases once again. You know, that D to E, that F sharp to G, and then you're going to pull off kind of quickly or slur that G back to F sharp. Like that. So really basic phrases here, but it's definitely delivering this really solid and heartfelt, you know, melody. The next phrase in the solo takes place over B minor, so we've cycled through the chord progression and now we're starting back on B minor again, and he kicks this off like this. One more time. So super expressive here. Definitely a Gilmour kind of extended bend too. But this A to B hammer on in the beginning, and then, you know, sustain that B with vibrato. And then right here, he basically bends that B up a whole step to C sharp. And then without picking again, he extends the bend up to D. So it's a step and a half. Right? And then you go back to B there. So you basically bend it up a whole step, then you extend that bend up a step and a half, and then release the bend back to B. You know, think David Gilmour right there, big time. And then go back to that A. You're gonna pick that B 3 times, it's from vibrato. and then just hang on this D and bend it to D sharp. You know, like a half step bend there at the end. You know, something like that. Cool phrase. Okay, here's a bonus lick from this footage, and this is technically the 5th lick, so either I can't count or I just really wanted to include this. I think I just wanted to include this. But now we're basically back over G and D, and he's doing... One more time. And I love phrases like this too, where you're just hanging on a bend like that, and you're not picking, but you're manipulating that bend and kind of changing the pitch and stuff. I love phrases like that. So this is, once again, is over G and D, and we're doing... You know, something like that. So that F sharp into G. So after you do that, hammer on into that G, come back to that F sharp, D, or I'm sorry, E to D, and then grab that E and bend that up a whole step. Add some vibrato with that bend. And then right here, without picking again, he starts manipulating that bend. He releases it, he bends it back up, kind of half releases it, bends it back up, and he's really just milking that bend. There's a little bit of, you know, sustain and a little bit of feedback kind of creeping in. Like that. And he's kind of going back to that D, E, F sharp, G, F sharp, like that. But that lick, definitely the I guess the feature is that really cool, like, expressive bend. Really cool phrase, and I love, you know, hearing guitarists play like this, whether it's David Gilmour, it could be anybody, it could be John Petrucci, sometimes kind of goes into like Gilmour territory. But here's Andrew Latimer just, you know, throwing out all these great melodies and expressive phrases. You know, so good. Alright, that's going to wrap this episode of 3 for All with this look at 3 Andrew Latimer licks from 2013. Definitely a great guitarist. I'm a huge fan of Camel. I think they have some great music and definitely overlooked by most. Unless you're a prog fan, then you totally know these bands I mentioned earlier. Goblin, Gentle Giant, Caravan, Camel, and obviously the really obvious bands. Of course, I love Yes and Rush and King Crimson and bands like that. But I love digging around, and definitely I'm kind of hung up on C's and G's with Caravan, Camel, Gentle Giant, and Goblin. And a little bit of Vandergraaf Generators kind of been creeping in. That's a great band too. But I just really love progressive rock because it kind of gives musicians a chance to flex their musical muscles and kind of show, you know, whether it's technical, you know, licks and time signature changes and stuff like that, or very expressive and emotive playing like this, you know, that we found in this lesson. Definitely reminds me of Gilmour a little bit, but Andrew's kind of adding his own touches and stuff. And just the way he was kind of phrasing those melodies and phrases, you know, it was really, really expressive, very musical. It kind of reminds me of like a public piano, like maybe if you're in a hotel or a subway station or a restaurant or something and there's a piano just sitting there. You know, I've definitely noticed, like, when different people sit at a piano, it sounds very different. Sometimes it sounds very primitive and elementary. But then when you hear somebody sit down and they can actually play and they're playing Chopin or something, that piano just comes to life. You know, like moments before it might have sounded like a little children's toy. And then all of a sudden, you know, somebody sits down and it really starts to play. And you can hear it, you can feel it. It's like, wow, listen to that. And with licks like this, you know, it's not really hard to play. There's no busy, you know, shredding or whatever. I don't think there was anything faster than a 16th note in this lesson. but it's emotion, it's melody, it's really, putting a lot of feel and energy into what you play, whether it's your picking technique, your fretting, your grabbing notes, and kind of digging in. And I really love, hearing players, play like this. Yeah, shredding's cool, but play something with some, emotion and some energy and some feel and really make a statement. And I think that's basically what Andrew did in the solo. That's what I was trying to kind of relay and show in this lesson. So anyway, leave some feedback and comments. Please subscribe to Night Lessons, and I'll be back before you know with more content and material. Thank you.